Have you ever noticed how a single sentence, spoken decades ago, can still ring inside your head like a brass bell in an empty cathedral? Why is it that we completely forget the complex equations we learned in school, or the names of our childhood neighbors, yet we can recall with terrifying clarity the exact inflection of a harsh phrase thrown at us by a parent when we were just 7 years old? There's a profound psychological paradox at play here. To a young child, a parent is not simply a human being with flaws and bad days. They are the absolute architects of reality and the first mirror we look into to discover who we are. When that mirror reflects warmth, we learn we are worthy of love. But when it is fractured by a parent's unresolved trauma, it rewires our neural pathways. A child cannot comprehend that their parent might be stressed or emotionally immature. Instead, the developing mind reaches the only conclusion that feels safe. If the person who gave me life dislikes me, I must be fundamentally broken. Today we look into that mirror together. We will dissect 10 toxic phrases parents say often without realizing the structural damage they leave behind, and uncover how these invisible scripts silently shape the adults we eventually become. Part 1. The theft of identity. We begin with the phrases that quietly erode a child's authentic sense of self, replacing their unique identity with a permanent shadow of inadequacy. 1. Why can't you be more like your sibling? This is not merely a frustrated comparison, it is a fundamental rejection of a child's uniqueness. In psychology, this triggers intense sibling rivalry and establishes a damaging framework of conditional worth. The hidden message is clear. Who you are is insufficient. To earn my love, you must become a copy of someone else. The child grows into an adult chronically trapped in a comparison loop, constantly measuring their achievements against others, forever feeling like they're running a race they cannot win. 2. You are just like your father. This phrase usually emerges from the bitter battleground of a fractured relationship. When a parent uses a partner's flaws as a weapon to brand their child, they commit a form of psychological conscription. The child is effectively drafted into an emotional war they did not start and have no power to resolve. They begin to view natural parts of their own personality as inherently corrupted. As adults, they often struggle with deep self-loathing, terrified they are biologically destined to repeat the painful history of the parent they were taught to despise. Part 2. The erasure of emotion. When we are young, our emotions are raw, overwhelming, and unmapped. We rely entirely on our caregivers to act as emotional anchors, but sometimes they choose to pull up the anchor and leave us to drift. 3. You're too sensitive, you're overreacting. This is the foundation of early childhood gaslighting. When a child expresses genuine hurt or fear and is met with this dismissive phrase, their emotional reality is completely invalidated. The message received is, your internal compass is broken. What you feel is an error. Over time, the child stops trusting their own instincts. They learn to suppress their emotions, which later manifest in adulthood as chronic anxiety, an inability to set healthy boundaries, or a tendency to tolerate toxic behavior in relationships because they believe their discomfort is just them overreacting. 4. Stop crying, or I will give you something to cry about. This phrase replaces empathy with raw intimidation, demanding the immediate behavioral suppression of vulnerability. Crying is a natural biological mechanism designed for emotional regulation and stress release. By threatening a child for showing distress, a parent teaches them that vulnerability is dangerous. The adult who grows up in this environment often possesses rigid emotional armor. They view any sign of sadness both within themselves and in others as an existential threat, leading to severe emotional detachment and an inability to form deep, intimate connections. Part 3. The burden of existence. Children are meant to be nurtured, not obligated. Yet some parental phrases reverse the natural flow of care, turning the child into an eternal financial and emotional debtor. 5. I sacrificed my entire life for you. While parenting requires sacrifice, weaponizing this reality imposes a crushing emotional debt on a developing child who never chose to be born. It forces them to carry the heavy responsibility for their parents' unfulfilled dreams or financial hardships. This psychological dynamic fosters a deeply entrenched adult complex of hyper-responsibility. These individuals will constantly overextend themselves, feeling deeply guilty for their own success, pleasure, or rest, believing their primary purpose is to pay back an unpayable debt to their creators. 6. I wish you were never born. This is the most devastating wound a parental figure can inflict, a direct assault on the child's fundamental right to exist. In child psychology, this phrase creates an immediate existential void. It tells the child that their very presence in the universe is a source of pain for the people they love most. This trauma almost always manifests in adulthood as intense self-sabotage, deep depressive episodes, and a chronic, lingering feeling of being an imposter who doesn't deserve to occupy space in the world. Part 4. The weaponization of guilt. Compliance bought through shame is a fragile piece that builds a quiet, burning resentment from the inside out. 7. You are so selfish. Ironically, this phrase is most frequently utilized by parents when a child attempts to express a basic personal boundary or an independent desire. If a child expresses a different opinion, protects their physical space, or claims autonomy over their choices, labeling them as selfish pathologizes their natural growth. It teaches the child that prioritizing their own mental health is an act of malice. In adulthood, this breeds severe, chronic people-pleasing and exhausting psychological state where saying no triggers an overwhelming wave of panic and irrational guilt. 8. Because I said so. When used habitually as a blanket response to a child's natural curiosity, this phrase effectively shuts down their critical thinking and logical reasoning skills. It communicates a dark lesson. Power and authority matter far more than truth, fairness, or mutual understanding. The child learns that their voice and their search for meaning hold zero value. As adults, they may either become overly submissive to toxic authority figures or conversely hyper-rebellious, viewing any structure or rule as an inherent threat to their personal freedom. Part 5. The architect of self-doubt. The final category concerns the heavy phrases that act as negative prophecies, trapping a child into a permanent state of perceived internal failure. 9. You always mess everything up, you'll never change. Absolute terms like always and never lock a child into a rigid identity cage, shifting the focus from a correctable mistake to an unalterable character flaw. The child internalizes the belief that failure is not something they did, but something they are. When these children grow up, they suffer from debilitating imposter syndrome, living in constant terror that the world will eventually realize they are just a mistake waiting to happen, regardless of how much they achieve. 10. Look at you. You're letting yourself go. A child's body image is incredibly fragile and heavily dependent on parental approval. When a parent critiques a child's physical appearance or eating habits through a lens of shame rather than health, it plants the toxic seeds of somatic dysmorphia. The home, which should be a sanctuary of unconditional acceptance, ceases to be a safe haven and transforms into a critical, high-stakes judging arena. The adult child often develops a dysfunctional relationship with food and self-worth, associating their physical body with rejection, constantly chasing perfection just to feel safe in their own skin. The path to reclaiming yourself. Healing from the words that broke us is not about blaming our parents, who carry their own generational ghosts. It is about realizing their scripts were never ours to perform. The critical voices whispering inside your head may mimic the tone of your past caregivers, but the reality you inhabit today belongs entirely to you. You are no longer that helpless child trapped in the echo chamber of someone else's unhealed pain. You can choose to put down the heavy shield of their expectations. You can validate your own emotions, protect your boundaries, and slowly rebuild the mirror of your own self-worth. If this exploration resonated with you, if it made you feel seen or understood, consider joining our community. Subscribe, leave your thoughts in the comments below, and let's continue to heal together, one word at a time.